Okay. Great. Okay. All righty. Joy, how are you? Good. On mute.
Hi, how you doing?
How are you? Good. Good to see you. Thank you for joining. All right. So we're going to talk about. We're going to do another segment on honesty. Those of you who have the book, it'd be nice to see it in the book. Not essential, but good. I want to knock out 5 or 6 concepts that I think go right to how we live and some of the key things that we want to really knock out of the park and do great, and some of the things that are a little more challenging in terms of honesty and the people we live with, the people who are closest to us, and all those kinds of things. So we're going to touch on a couple of areas of that, and like as before, we'll learn and grow together. So the cornerstone of tonight is the concept of chesed. Now, we use chesed today in a certain way, but that's not the way it was originally designed and originally defined. What does chesed mean? For example, when you say haolam chesed yibaneh, that the world is built on chesed, what does it mean? Forget kindness, forget this, that, not what it means. What would you say? Any thoughts? Any willing to take a shot? Rachel, what are you volunteering? Let's go.
I'm not volunteering, but I kind of wish someone else had their camera on.
All right, that would be helpful, right? Let's see. Maybe we'll get a few more.
I was just reading this and I can't remember where I read it. It was one of the English books. It was talking about chesed and I don't remember the answer.
Okay, excellent. Let's get at it. Zach, welcome.
Hi.
Welcome back. Great to have you back. Zach, we're gonna be doing some of the things you and I learned together. So I expect you to chime in. Okay, chesed. This is something, Zach, you and I have not learned together. Chesed means the following. Chesed means an absolutely interconnectedness of everything that Hashem created. So when we say that Hashem created the world with chesed, it means that everything that he created, everything, even the things that are seemingly absolutely unrelated to each other, are not. So the Western expression, if a tree falls in the forest, that's something that's written about by Western scholars and so on. The perspective is, if a tree falls in the forest and no one is there and no one hears it, then no one knows about it. The Torah point of view is different. The Torah point of view is that whatever goes on anywhere with anyone touches somebody else. Good night, honey. Whatever goes on anywhere with anyone touches someone or many people. Whether it's overt, whether it's on the surface, whether it's subtle, whether it's quiet, there is no such thing as an action on an island. There's nothing that exists in and of itself in a vacuum. Nothing. Good? So that's the premise to everything. The premise to everything that God created is that everything breeds from each other. Everything is a mosaic. Everything is interconnected. And when we say that God would have created the world with din or judgment and decides to create it with chesed or interconnectedness, it's a profound statement. It frames for everybody how they should look at life. It means nothing I say, nothing I do is in a vacuum. Nothing. Good? Everybody okay with this? Okay, so Rachel, if you say something to someone, better. Hey, Erwin. If you say something,
Hi, Rick.
how are you? Good. If you say something
thanks.
about someone, positive or otherwise, and the person doesn't hear it, what's your sense of that? You didn't do anything.
No, well, they're still affected by it.
How are they affected by it?
They're affected by it because when you told the person, now the person has a different view of them. They're gonna respond or react.
No, they don't know. You never told the person what you said. They never heard it.
No, but it's gonna change how the person you told, deals with that person that you spoke about.
No, you didn't tell it to anybody. I'm sorry, I wasn't clear. You didn't say anything to anybody. You only said something under your breath about person X.
Okay.
So if we say that there is no absolutely isolated act. Hi, Serene, how are you? There is no isolated act. There is no isolated comment. There is no isolated anything. The world is created. The world is created based on chesed, means that whatever I say, whatever I do, and maybe according to some, whatever I think, but let's leave that alone for now. Whatever I say, whatever I do, whether anybody sees it or is impacted by it or not, it exists. Yeah? Now, so let's use that as our headline. Erwin, I need you with me on this, big time. Ready? Chesed means
Go for it.
that there is no compartmentalization in life. There is no bifurcation in life. Everything is connected. Every action has a reaction. Every statement has a place and exists. There is no isolated act. There is no act in a vacuum. There is no act on an island. It doesn't exist. That's what chesed means. Okay? Absolute interconnectedness. No compartmentalization whatsoever. Now,
No barriers.
forget no barriers, no secrets. Right? Good. Serene, you with me? Okay, great. We have two people driving tonight. How great. Okay, so now, Rachel, you have the Chumash with you. Go to the 19th chapter of Sefer Vayikra, of the book of Vayikra, the 14th verse, 14th pasuk. Read it, please.
I'll read it in English.
Yeah, read it in English.
Okay. You shall not curse the deaf, and you shall not place a stumbling block before the blind. You shall fear your God. I am Hashem.
Beautiful. Lo tekalel cheresh. Don't curse a deaf person. Lifnei iver lo titen michshol. And don't put a stumbling block in front of a person who can't sense it or can't see it. Now, Erwin, what's your Hebrew name? Yitzhak? Huh? Oh, you're frozen. Okay. If Mr. whomever, if that person is lo alenu deaf, right? What's the problem with saying something negative about that person? He's not going to hear it. What's the issue? What do you say? By the way, this is a Torah prohibition. It's not rabbinic. It's not something that the rabbis want to do to make us better people. It's Torah based. Joy, what would you say?
It harms you. It harms you. Once you say something, it's from you and it's within you and it's what you're thinking and you said it and it's out there and you just put out negativity all over the place, whether they know it or not.
Excellent. So whether they know it or not, it harms me, right? Okay. What else? What else would you say?
Doesn't it, like we say, like the words create reality, and even on the other levels of,
Okay, beautiful. It has an impact on the metaphysical, right? On the metaphysical things, on the balance beyond the immediate day to day. Absolutely. What else does it do? What else would you say it does? What else would you say it does? Mhm.
Doesn't it create, like when you say things, it creates things? So you don't want to create anything negative?
Right, good. So excellent. On a medical physical level, we created a negative statement, and that statement perpetuates. Good. What else does it do?
There's an English saying, I don't have it exactly, but it's something like, watch your thoughts, they become your actions, watch your actions, they become your character, watch your character, they become your destiny. But it
Excellent.
started with the thoughts.
It starts with the thoughts. Good. So we're gonna come
Ricky,
back to
Rick.
that. Yeah, in a few
What?
minutes, 1 minute. Zach, we're gonna come back to that in a few minutes. Hold that. It's beautiful. Hold
Because
it.
that's
We're
what,
gonna
like,
come
when you
back to
say
it.
something under your, when you
Right.
say something to yourself, it's more pronounced than even a thought.
Okay, perfect. But why am I listing here the person who can't hear? Why am I listing the person here can't just
like-
say?
You're
Yeah.
hurting him even more. You're hurting him even more. And I mean, he can't fight back.
Beautiful, beautiful, excellent. So that's what we're talking about here. The Torah didn't come and say, don't.
Ricky,
think
Rick,
bad
Rick,
about
do you hear
people."
me?
One second,
Ricky.
1 second. Don't think bad about people. Say it again, Serene. The Torah said what?
Not, I guess, not to hurt people who can't defend themselves.
Don't hurt someone who can't defend himself, right? So well, you would say, but who cares? He didn't hear it. He didn't hear it. So what do you want to say?
Yeah, but you
Owen?
said it. You said it.
And therefore what? He didn't hear it. So what did I do wrong?
It doesn't matter. Someone else could have heard it. And this
Right.
guy needed to defend himself. He didn't have the chance.
Let's say nobody heard it. Let's
I
say
think that's
nobody
just
heard it.
your
What
character.
happened wrong here?
So the guy's hallucinating. The guy
No, but this is the point. No, it's very important, very important.
spoke with
Nobody
himself.
heard
I
it.
mean, what's the value?
1 second. Nobody heard it,
I know,
right?
but Ricky, I agree with what Joy was saying. Like, it says something about your character.
Right. And it says something about my character. Yeah.
I
Yeah.
think
And
that's the issue, or one of.
it says something about my character, right? But what else does it do? You
So
see,
God heard it. God heard it too.
right, God heard it, right? God heard it.
So
So
now we have to open
there are a
the-
number of things that we're not allowed to do, even though no one will ever find out about it, or chances are no one will ever find out about it. And it goes to what some of you have said. It goes to the fact that we're creating this negative in a metaphysical place, true, hard to grasp, but true. But it goes to who I am as a person, right? That I would harbor these things or say these things. But it also goes to you don't know what anybody hears or doesn't hear. And the whether the recipient hears it or not, there's an issue here. There's something standing here. I'm going to give you another example. We have another pasuk in the same parasha that in a court of law, the judge is not allowed to favor the poor person. The judge is not allowed to favor the poor person. Let's say there's a case, poor man against rich man. The poor man is fighting for that $100. The rich man couldn't care less about the $100, but he was pulled into the courtroom. You might say, the judge might say, this guy doesn't need the money. The rich man doesn't need the money. Let me throw the poor guy a bone. What's wrong with that? The rich guy spends more than $100 for lunch.
I can't see you.
Why is there a biblical prohibition against that?
Because justice has to be served, period.
Okay, but
Nothing to do, justice
what's-
is justice, period. When you're ruling, you might as well have a mask on, like it shows, with the weights.
okay.
You have a mask on. You're just supposed to deal with the issue at hand. And through your knowledge and experience as a judge, you make a decision, period. Simple.
Excellent. So what does that mean, Zach?
It means that there's no bias there. You're just looking at the issues and the law and what has to be.
Good. I'm looking at the issues in the law and what has to be. And if the ani would really, the poor person would benefit from this, yeah? The poor person would benefit and the rich person really wouldn't lose out.
Doesn't matter.
That's good. It doesn't matter. It
If
doesn't
you're
matter.
worried about the poor person, raise $100 for him.
Very
It's a
good.
different issue.
Very good. So the person not, hey Cynthia, the person not cursing a deaf person or not slanting an issue in court, it's not about, as some of you said, it's not about the subject or the recipient. It's about, it's beni uben atzmi. It's between me and me. These laws are duties of the heart. They're chovot levavot, duties of the heart. And what the Torah is introducing here is absolutely mind-boggling. The Torah is introducing that I have to be responsible for what I think, what I feel, if I ultimately express that in words, even though no one will be impacted by it, because that is it's about between me and me. It's all between me and me. So what the Torah does is it doesn't just go out and adjudicate right and wrong. This is considered theft. This is considered injury. This is considered Shabbat. This is considered a holiday, whatever it might be. The Torah reaches one step further and says that there are duties of the heart. There are things that go on inside of me that are going to be guided and judged by a Torah process. Okay? So, let's recap. Headline, Chesed. Chesed means there is no compartmentalization, not between me and something, not between one action and another, there is no isolated action. The drop-down point of that is that I can't compartmentalize within me either. There's no compartmentalizing of me either. So I can't say, you know what, to Zach's point, I'm going to judge fairly in every case, but over here, I'm going to throw the guy something. Even though, by the way, nobody's being hurt by it. But I can't compartmentalize my honesty. I can't,
You can,
yeah?
I'm
Yeah.
sorry, but I feel like it's going against what you're saying last week, like that you can compartmentalize your honesty, because last week you said we're allowed to lie, or one other week we're allowed to lie, let's say.
That's right.
So
100%. We're not allowed to lie, we have to lie.
Right. So it's not really, you can't really compartmentalize, like you're saying you shouldn't, but you do. Oftentimes you do.
So answer the question.
I'm saying it's all for the same purpose, I guess. So I guess.
So I have a different purpose, actually. In the case where we said you're obligated to lie, not only you can, but you're obligated to lie, that's when I'm bringing out peace between people. In that case, my absolute goal, what we parallel to emet, is shalom. And in that case, not only can I lie, I must lie. Because it's about bringing about peace between people. Right? Perfect. Now we're saying, but wait a second. That's not my goal here. That's not the plan. That's not what this is about. This is simply about favoring, saying something to a person who won't be able to hear it or respond to it. In that case, because there's no greater good of peace to be achieved, I can't do it.
I'm confused.
That's why it's so complicated.
But
That's why it's, yeah,
Rick, so so I have two thoughts. So is this really dealing with man and God, man being wrong? Because if the guy doesn't hear or it doesn't get transmitted, it's the person's doing wrong and God's judging them. So really that person is just let's say a vehicle for this person's transgression. So, but it's not hurting the person, like you say, if the person, God forbid, is deaf. But at the end of the day, the man is within himself is doing wrong.
Right. But
So
why is he doing
what's the
wrong?
difference where it goes?
Right, exactly, because the point is like this, if a person says, I have to speak honestly or carefully or respectfully to somebody who hears,
Are you
but I
saying
can
if
speak dishonestly or
if it's a true
insincerely
fact, if it's
to
a true
someone who
fact, then it's
can't,
detrimental?
what's that? We call it,
No, you're saying that if it's truth and it's detrimental, it's still a problem.
no, 1 second, I don't want to mix these points up, I want to be very clear here. If my goal, after sincerely considering the situation, is to build another human being or two human beings, to build them together. And the way I'm going to get that done is to lie, you better lie. But it has to be carefully considered and smart and planned and so on. On the other hand, if inside of me, I think I can speak negatively about a person who won't hear it, a deaf person, so to speak. He could be deaf physically, he could be deaf emotionally or intellectually where he wouldn't hear it. That's not allowed because that's lying to me. I can't consider myself a good person and say and curse a deaf person.
Right.
That's
No,
being dishonest.
no. That doesn't make sense. Sorry, Ricky, it's not clear.
Okay, good. So let's work it. Good. Let's work it. Let's start with the premise we talked about a couple of weeks ago. You have a person who sees two people fighting, right? He believes he can fix that relationship by lying to either or both, right? He's got an obligation to do so. No questions asked. Drop down. A person knows someone who's suffering, going through a difficult time, has a loss of sense of self or sense of self-confidence. He knows by lying to him and exaggerating his strengths, he can rebuild his confidence over time and get him on his feet. He has to do it. So in case A, where it's lying to bring two people together, it's not that you can, you have to. In case B, if it's lying to help a person regain his sense of self-love, it's not that you can, you have to. At the same, what?
We were comfortable with that, but now tonight, you're saying something else.
I want you to hear both. And I didn't stumble onto it. I brought it up, for a reason. And then there are things that have no productive value. I'm not building the world with these things. They're a pirate. They're a disparate. They're a reflection of me that is not consistent with the rest of me, hopefully, right? If someone says something ugly about someone who can't hear him, hopefully the person doesn't say ugly things about other people who can hear. So the Torah goes out of its way and says, if the person can't hear you, it doesn't mean it isn't ugly. It's still ugly. And if you can't look at yourself and say, I am built as a member of this world of chesed, because if I was built as a member of the world of chesed, I couldn't say this ugly thing. And we call these things duties of the heart. And this is the most rigorous level of honesty. Now, you a little more comfortable, Cynthia, or no?
Yeah, because in essence, what you're saying is when you hear something bad or you say something bad, you should know that it doesn't matter if somebody's listening. It's not a good feeling and it's not good to do. That's all. It's just not healthy for anybody to say something bad about anyone. It's as if you wouldn't want them to hear it. So why would you say it?
So I'm going to make it harder for you now. So you're going to be more uncomfortable with what I'm teaching you tonight. How's that?
All right.
What?
So
What?
no, it's funny you're talking about this because the other day somebody cut me off or something happened and I start to myself in the car, nobody's there, and I am cursing this person. I'm like, you damn, and I'm like, Joy, control yourself. But I think that's what it's about because I'm
That's
putting it
exactly what we're talking about. That's exactly.
And I am so angry, and I'm like, I really have to rein it in. But like, you really get mad in the car. I'm not gonna lie, Brooklyn.
So the hardest person to be honest with is ourselves. That's where the self-honesty comes in. So let me throw this other one at you. Lo tisna et achicha b'dvavecha. You can't hate, sorry for that word, that's the word that Torah uses, your brother in your heart. 1 second. The guy is a bum. He hurt me. I'm not doing anything to him. I have ill feelings for him in my heart. What's the problem with that, Erwin? What's the problem?
Not normal, not normal.
It's what?
But you know what? I want to tell you
It's
something. Ricky.
a challenge.
What's the challenge?
No, the challenge is how do yours, that's a key issue that so many families bring up. The fact that it's merely a sibling, do you have to treat it differently than another human being if the damage is there?
So somebody I learned with, and I were talking about this issue some time ago. You know, the sibling thing is particularly interesting because it's unquestionably true that Hakadosh Baruch Hu put us together with our siblings intentionally. No, but that's very important. Nobody was put with a sibling by mistake or by chance. And our goal on the planet is to refine our characters.
Challenge.
And therefore, Hakadosh Baruch Hu gave me the brothers and sisters he gave me, who no matter what I do, they're my brothers and sisters. I can't get away from them. Whereas I can get away from friends or acquaintances, I can't get away from a sibling. They're the blood relatives that Hakadosh Baruch Hu builds into our lives,
Right.
built in for a reason. So when somebody says, I'm not speaking to my brother, that's a great failure, not a failure in the relationship, a failure for the individual. Because Hakadosh Baruch Hu intentionally puts brothers together who are nothing alike. And a sister and sister, a sister and brother who have nothing in common. Now, with a friend, when you have nothing in common, you just distance yourself from that person. But with a blood relative, you can't do that. And you have to learn how to refine yourself to a point when you can have a brotherly relationship with that person. Doesn't have to be dear friends, but it has to be that. So,
Ricky, so in essence, what you're saying, and I want to tell you something very nice. I told my husband once someone took advantage of him. And this wasn't family, although it could reiterate to family, but it wasn't. And I said to him, aren't you upset? Look what this person did. He took advantage of you. And my husband said, that's okay. Leave him alone. If that's what he needs to do, leave him alone. And my husband has good, strong character that way. Sometimes I say I have to learn from him. He really has that in him.
You know, you've been together umpteen years. You should learn.
Yeah, that's right. Umpteen years. And I'm first appreciating everything that he does because the truth is, he has a way of everything slides on his off his back. It's not that important. If that's how he needs to do it, I'm happy with what I have. I don't need to. You understand? It's a very strong character.
It sure is. So let's look at what we got here. So what I want you to own this term, chovot halevavot, or mitzvot shebelev. That's even a more exact term. Mitzvot, okay. Commandments of the heart. Commandments of the heart. So if I'm trying to build myself in a certain way, and I'm trying to build my persona as a loving person, an accepting person, and so on, I have to confront myself on cursing, God forbid, a deaf person. In other words, cursing someone who's never going to hear it, because it's not consistent with me. And the intrapersonal honesty, the honesty between me and me, comes before everything else. And that's where I have to be the most demanding and the most rigorous. Let's take another example. It says, "Lifnei iver lo titen mikshol." Don't put a stumbling block before a blind man, right? Now, is the blind man going to see you do it? No. So we go back to a similar type of thing. It's beni uben atzmi, between me and myself. I'm really regulating and training myself, and I have to hold myself accountable, even though that other person can't hold me accountable. Now, what would be a violation of don't put a stumbling block in front of a blind man? What would be a violation of that?
A violation of that?
Yeah,
Or you mean an example of that?
an example of that, right? What would be an example? Yeah. What would be an example of a
The
violation of
good one, it's
that?
the good one, that's the good one.
So I'll give you the ones that the Torah brings. We mentioned it actually a few weeks ago. The Torah says that if someone swears off wine, a Nazir, a Nazirite, you can't hand them a glass of wine. Because if you hand a glass of wine to a Nazirite, you're attempting to trip him up. And that's not allowed. Okay. The other thing they say is you can't tear a limb from an animal and offer it to a goy, to a non-Jew, because even goyim are not allowed to eat limbs that are torn from a living animal. Okay, good. What if you tell someone, call me sometime, we'll have lunch? What
Without
about
the
that?
intention.
Without the,
Without the
What is-
intention to call
without the
you
intention.
or to go for lunch. I hear you. That's not good.
Okay,
Not
good. So that's putting a stumbling block before a blind man. What if you know you're intellectually superior to a person and he can't keep up with you on a business level, but you bring him into a business deal knowing that the day will come when you will just simply get the better hand,
Terrible.
right?
But
That's not
Ricky,
good.
but Ricky, all of these examples are not they're different from the first one. The first one is you're hurting yourself because the other guy really can't hear it. But this one, you're actually hurting the person.
Right.
So
Very good.
it's
So
more.
you're very good. The primary
But you
focus
are
here.
hurting yourself. You are
Right.
hurting yourself.
You're hurting
Okay,
yourself, but
how?
you're also hurting the other person. Meaning, it's not
Right.
just me. It's not just for yourself. You are actually hurting them.
Absolutely
So-
right. And what if you didn't hurt them? Very good, Serena.
No,
You're right.
it's if you didn't hurt them, I guess you attempted to, then it's on yourself. But if you did hurt them, then it's between both of you.
Very good. So if you did hurt them, then you have two avonot, right? You have two
Right.
sins, right? If you
Right,
didn't
yeah.
hurt them, if nothing came of it, you still have the first violation, right? Okay, good. So what would you call these so far? How would, if you were hearing these mitzvot just straight up first time, what would you categorize them as? How would you?
I have to
how would you
say
define
something,
them?
Ricky.
Yeah.
Whenever you say something about somebody that's negative, you're not happy afterwards. Even if they didn't hear you, you are not happy afterwards that you had that to say, and you feel very uncomfortable that you did that.
Go further. You're right.
I don't
but
know, is
in
it
the
guilt? I
context
don't know
of
what it
honesty.
is.
Talk to me about it in the context of honesty. We're in our theme for these classes is honesty. Tell me how that works here.
Okay, so you said something and you were being honest about what you said. That person, let's say, loves to lie, okay? But you feel uncomfortable afterwards that you said that, because why should I be the one to say that? That's not nice. Let somebody else be the one. I'm not going to talk about it. It's like you're not happy with yourself because you said something negative about someone. It shouldn't be that important.
Good. So it's inconsistent with the person I want to be, right?
Right.
Correct.
Or how you want to see yourself.
Good. So it's dishonest in terms of if I hold myself to be a certain type of person, then I'm obligated to confront myself about these comments and thoughts.
True.
Because I can't be dishonest with myself,
Right.
where I hold myself to be a certain type of person, but I still give myself license to say and think these things. Doesn't mean I'm going to be perfect in avoiding those things, but it means that I'm going to call myself to task on those things.
Right. Right.
Okay, good so far. Okay, so lo tisnat achicha b'vavecha. Don't hate your friend in your heart. What is that about?
In Syrian, they say Didi Balik.
What does that mean?
Didi Balik in Syrian. What it means is Didi Balik, be careful. Be careful, because it's not good to say something bad and it might come back to you. It's terrible.
Okay.
So
So
be
let me-
careful.
So let me give you the context of this. It's, and again, somebody and I were learning this together. Hocheach tochiach et amitecha. You have to rebuke your fellow Jew. Lo tisnat achicha b'vavecha. So if someone did something, honesty demands honesty, that you call the person out for his or her actions. Now, how does that work?
I don't know.
Okay,
What do you mean you call the person out? What does that mean?
that means that someone does something wrong. It's hurtful, it's inappropriate. Maybe the person doesn't fully understand the impact of his actions or his words. Our rabbis say that if you don't call the person out for it, if you don't have that conversation with him, and it perpetuates, then you're considered an accomplice and an enabler.
Okay, so in that regard, you have to deal with it with that person up front, but not talk about him behind his back. Better to discuss it with him up front.
Great.
That's difficult.
That's difficult, right? So the halakha is very interesting. The halakha says that we have to rebuke, and the term rebuke is used twice, hocheach, tochiach. So rebuke, in other words, it's emphatic. And our rabbis say, as I mentioned, that a person who is in a position to rebuke but doesn't becomes an enabler or a collaborator. Therefore, the sin that this person made, because you didn't call him out, you become a partner to that sin and an enabler of that sin. Pretty
That's a
strong.
rough one.
What?
That's a rough one.
It's a rough one. And in the Pirkei Avot, we go further. The Pirkei Avot, the rabbis go further and say, don't think that this thing will be resolved because you have made it worse. And the same way, our rabbis say the same way that someone who enables somebody to do something good and to become better has a piece of that forever. The person who allows somebody to be bad has a responsibility to that forever.
So when you confront the person, you better tell them, Pirkei Avot said, I better tell you you're lying.
Say that again,
I said, when I confront the person, I should say, Pirkei Avot told me I should let you know you're lying.
Right.
Yeah, and have a World War III.
Yeah, you'd have World War III. So what do we do? So-
Ricky, it's very interesting because let's just take the reverse of it, like sort of the X-ray. Rachel Ashkenazi became my friend, right?
Mhm.
Okay. And I'm capable of hurting her feelings somehow, unintentionally. I don't know her that well. You understand? I could
Okay.
slight her. You understand? She's doing me a favor if she calls me up and tells me, Zach, you hurt my feelings. You're giving me a chance to repair the damage.
That's right. And you're
That's
obligated to do
interesting.
it.
I
But
like
you're-
that.
You're obligated to do it. And the Torah's position is very aggressive here to say that if I don't confront a person, A, I'm being dishonest, I'm not being honest with myself, and B, I'm enabling the action, is very, very aggressive. It's a very aggressive position for the Torah to take. And again, the thing that I want you to be a little bit shocked by is that these are biblical mitzvot. I mean, that's the top of the totem pole, right? The mitzvot Doraita are the most important. They came from HaKadosh Baruch Hu himself. And at the end of many of the Pesukim, it says, Ani Hashem, I am your God. Ani Hashem Elokechem. Now, for those of you who study Chumash, when a verse ends with the words, Ani Hashem, I am God, Ani Hashem Elokechem, what does it mean? I want you to
I'm the
know
king.
this
I'm
rule.
watching over you.
What?
I am the king. I am watching over you.
Beautiful. I'm on this one. God says, I am on this one. Whenever you see a pasuk that ends with the words Ani Amonai or Ani Hashem Elokechem, take special attention to that pasuk. It's not done the overwhelming majority of the time. And when it's done, Hashem is calling you out. You know, what's an interesting case? It's off topic a little bit, but it's very interesting. When Yaakov Avinu is looking at the ladder, the angels go up and down on the ladder, right? At the end of the description of what's happening, what does it say? That HaKadosh Baruch Hu is on the top. Now, the angels going up and down the ladder means a lot of things to a lot of different Torah scholars and rabbis, right? Where do actions start? How is there interaction between this world and the heavens and all of that? Good. But the fact that HaKadosh Baruch Hu was standing at the top of the ladder, so to speak, that's the thing that blows it all away. Because that's the thing that says that HaKadosh Baruch Hu himself was in this experience. So whenever you see the term Ani Hashem, know that an extra, many times extra level of emphasis is given to this mitzvah because God says, to Cynthia's point, I'm the one judging this one. This is not happening in the heavenly courts where it happens in some mechanical kind of way, let's say. Okay. Now,
Okay, I have a question.
Yep.
Why would it be? In other words, I understand you're saying Pirkei Avot said you must confront the person and, in other words, straighten it out right then and there, rather than allow that person to get away with something that he should not have. Okay. Now, why would that? Let's say you're meek and you don't want to confront. You don't want confrontation.
Beautiful.
Why would that not be acceptable?
Excellent. It's an excellent question. Let me broaden the question because What if you're meek and you can't confront the person? What if the person won't listen? What if the person will hurt you? Right? So
right.
What is your Torah obligation in that case?
Well, I understand what you're saying in Pirkei Avot, but why would Hashem want you to do that? I don't,
Right.
you know what I mean?
So I'm telling you, you're right. So think about it some more. If the person is not in a position to confront the other person, if the person will be hurt by confronting the other person, whatever the case might be, what is the person's obligation?
No, you're saying the obligation is to straighten it out with that person and be honest with that person. But I'm saying.
So let me tell you what it is, to your point. Let me tell you
I'm saying like maybe Hashem could also say, leave it alone, don't make it worse. And what you're saying is if you don't say something, it's going to get worse.
So I'll tell you what the halakha is. And I'll tell you anybody know what the halakha is in this case? If by confronting the person, you may make it worse. What is the halakha?
Ricky, we were talking about last night, protecting yourself.
So what do you do, Zach? What is the halakha in this case?
Well, the halakha is to rebuke him, but if it's not going to do any good and it's not going to listen, and it's going to cause more harm, you wait for a better day.
Very good. You wait for a better day. So here's the
point. Rick, is third party an option?
Absolutely an option. It's exactly the point. So the point is like this. You're not off the hook. In other words, if somebody's doing the wrong thing, and you know about it, you're not off the hook. You have a Torah obligation to fix it. If you can't fix it because you don't have the relationship or you don't have the vocabulary or whatever it might be, then you have an obligation to find that third party. That's the point. So hocheach tochiach means if you can do it, you got to do it. If you can't do it, you need to find the one to do it. Now let's put it together. Let's put it
Right.
together, right? And with a couple of things.
Okay, good.
If that person is a sibling or a family member, right? A blood relative, where it's the most complicated, obviously, right? So, obviously, clearly, we rush to compliment our family members. We should, right? To express our love, to express our admiration of their actions and compliments. Beautiful. The same thing has to happen on the other side. Here, in this case, because we know that these things are very delicate and complicated, if we're not the one to do it, or it's not the right time, that's okay. As long as there's an honest assessment of what's going on and an honest alternative plan. Kicking the can down the road indefinitely is not an honest plan, but an honest plan that speaks to really addressing this thing can be done. If I'm not the person to address it, fine, but it has to be addressed.
In other words, get a mediator.
Yeah, a third party. Then it could be a mediator. It could be somebody else who, just has a different lingo,
Okay, but Ricky, wait. If it's family member, I understand it better. But if it's somebody that you know that, he steals and he has a reputation of stealing, you're not going to get anywhere. So what would be the sense in confronting?
But that doesn't fly. That's exactly, that doesn't fly. I need to feel a sense of responsibility to every single Jewish person.
Right.
And that sense of responsibility grows stronger as those people are closer and closer to my inner circle, to my
Right.
life. So I can't I can't ruin my life to help another person. And that's why you would get that third party or that mediator or whatever it might be. But I can't walk by. I just can't walk by. I don't have that option. Now, would anybody know if I walk by? Answer is, Ani Hashem. HaKadosh Baruch Hu will know. That's the point. The duties of the heart, the mitzvot shebelev, no one is ever really going to be able to call you out on those. You either call yourself out, whether you do or not, but know that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is all over this stuff. And it becomes even more subtle, and we'll pull a few more together. The shock value here, so to speak, is seeing that HaKadosh Baruch Hu wanted this thing to be. He wanted a person to go inside of himself and understand how he thinks, how he feels, and confront himself with that. You have the V'ahavta l'reacha kamocha. What does that mean?
To love your neighbor like you love yourself.
Very good. So what are the key elements on that?
I don't know.
You have to love yourself first. You have to love yourself first.
You have to love yourself first, and you have to love other people. Not so simple.
No.
Not simple to love self, not simple to love other people. Leave me alone. Let me keep Shabbat. Let me celebrate Purim. Let me be an honest person. Why Hashem are you demanding of me this? Who demands?
And maybe it doesn't work, Ricky. And maybe it doesn't work. Because you could confront, let's say, a family member and say, I lent you money, you owe me all this time, and that person could say, I need it more than you need it. And that's the end of it. So it didn't work.
That may happen.
What does Hashem do? He gives you credit because it didn't work?
100%.
Interesting.
100%. Now, am I off the hook if it didn't work? I'm not off the hook.
No.
I have to make a reasonable number of tries that are seriously contrived and considered and conceptualized before I can say I'm off the hook. There is a point where you're off the hook. but it has to be after a very real effort with some sacrifice. And
Wow.
people have to be willing to say, that's my brother, for example. I'm going to give something up for him because he's my brother. Are we worlds apart? Do we think differently? Worlds apart. But he is my brother. And therefore, for example, I have an obligation in terms of my mitzvot of the heart, in terms of how I deal with him. Okay?
That's a hard one. That's very difficult.
I know. That's what
You want to
you're
stump
paid.
the stars, Ricky.
Huh?
I said you want to stump the stars because that's a difficult one.
It's very
How
difficult.
how many times you're going to confront the situation and you're saying you have to keep trying, you know.
I'm saying like this, there's an interesting malach, an interesting discussion between the rabbis on the pasuk Chiyamu Chachicha. When and I think we've discussed this. When if you see a person falling emotionally or financially or whatever, you have an obligation to help that person. When your brother is stumbling, achicha, you have to reach out your hand and help him. Right? We've talked about this. Question is, who gets more credit? The person who helped him early on with 3 hours of his time, or the person who helps him later on with 20 hours of his time? Who gets more credit? What would you
Early
say?
on is best, Ricky.
Huh?
Ricky, you catch something early, all right? It's a cold. You catch it later, it's pneumonia.
Excellent. Perfect, Zach. So that's the halacha. The halacha is that the earlier you step in, the more credit you get, because we say that the parts of people shatter emotionally, and that shattering can't always be put back together. So therefore, if we have a responsibility to each other, particularly to blood relatives, and for some reason, it's funny, but it's usually the blood relatives who are so incredibly different than we are. It just ends up that way. We need to make heroic level efforts. Can't compromise ourselves.
Right.
Can't compromise our children. We can't do that.
But Rick, you nailed it before, the truth, and I was cracking up that it really, what you said, it really gave me the answer, not just reflective of me or whatever, but I'm saying in general, because it's always an issue, that Hashem put you together for that purpose. He didn't put you together with someone that you're always going to love. That, in other words, he designed it, whatever that reason is. So maybe that's the program that he wants you to make the effort. But let me ask you one thing. Does the 3-shot rule apply here? Where in other words, I'm sorry, have a nice day, and they never accept? It doesn't apply here. Wow. But how come it applies man to man? It doesn't apply here.
You know something? The 3-shot rule, as it applies man to man, is not as straightforward as that. The second or third shot has to involve other people. Other people have to be brought in to weigh in on the issue,
Right.
resolve the issue. So,
but doesn't the
Ricky,
third shot remove you from your obligation or whatever?
it does, but sometimes there should be a 4th shot. When there should be a 4th shot. And if you study this parashat Kedoshim, you see one after the other of these mitzvot of the heart.
Right.
It starts to frame everything, really. Because yeah.
Ricky, sometimes when you hold back and you don't say anything, sometimes you feel better afterwards because that situation relieves itself and fixes itself by itself. And you say, thank God I didn't get that involved because it got better. The person is better. My brother is better. My sister is better.
Right.
That kind of thing. Sometimes you take a value for what the good is and then you let it, look, I'm not talking business and big numbers. I'm talking like one-on-one, personal hurt you. And sometimes you didn't confront the person and you let it go. And then sometimes you say, you know what, let me look at the good. It wasn't so terrible what they did. Was that a bad time? I couldn't take it.
No problem. That's all okay. As long as you're not carrying any bad feeling inside, and as long as you've done what you can do to help the person not do what he or she did.
I know, but that's rough. I hear what you're saying.
Okay.
And very often I walk away from that kind of situation and I don't deal with it.
Okay, so we have to think about those. We have to think about them, particularly from the context of honesty. We have to think about those because this is considered the key rubric of honesty. The stuff that most people will never see and never be able to judge me on. And that's why Kadosh Baruch Hu calls them out. Okay,
Ricky.
yeah.
When you're saying that you have to confront someone when they did something wrong, are you talking about that's an obligation when they do something just that's wrong, not to you, just in general? Or are you talking about something that they did wrong to you?
No, I'm talking about something very good, Serene, very important. I'm talking about something wrong in general. I'm going to give you guys an example of something. So there's a young adult who I have a relationship with, wonderful young man, growing, beautiful person. And, from time to time, he'll ask me about this or that. And one time he took a public position on something a number of years ago. And I was very surprised and very concerned for him. I called him up, asked him about it, and he said, everybody applauded what I did. Everybody thought it was wonderful. And I said it was anything but wonderful. It was a significant mistake, harmful to you, not harmful to anybody else, but harmful simply to him. He completely didn't get it. And we had a number of conversations until he got in it. And it literally took, I think it was 3 or 4 months until he actually got it, where he hadn't hurt anyone but himself. But I'm a person in this case who understood it and had the relationship with him. Who was going to be harmed by this other than him? Nobody. But if I didn't make the effort in that case, then any harm that would come to him over time, I would have part of that on my list, So we need to feel this level of responsibility, but not from a Ben Adam Havero perspective, not from a man and man perspective, from a Ben Adam Na'atzmo perspective, from between me and me perspective, an intrapersonal perspective, where I need to know that my life carries with it certain responsibilities. And to be honest with myself, it means I have to own up to those responsibilities.
It's still contradictory, Ricky.
What?
Because by owning up to your responsibilities, if you make a confrontation, something that you let go a long time ago, and then you bring it up now, you are making trouble. You are not doing anything for yourself.
You're right, but if the person is on the wrong track and I can make an effort to help, I must. If the person is on the wrong track and I can make an effort to help, I must. That's the thing.
You have to honestly think you're making an effort to help.
That's right.
Ricky, you can't go, Rick.
Yeah.
You can't go into this blindly because you could cause a lot of trouble, like one of the girls.
That's what I'm saying.
Right.
So like it's sort of like you once say you have to be your own rabbi, right?
Mm-hmm.
You have to know that if you do something, it's sort of going to work. There's no use in telling somebody if they're not going to listen. It can make things worse.
That's right.
Good.
So that's where the balance is.
If you go through the exercise, you're 100% right, Zach. Go through the exercise.
Go through the exercise, but it's not black and white. It's about timing. It's about, can you use a third party? Is it about, can I have a different approach? because
Good.
it can blow up in your face and his face. So it's a
100%
difficult
true.
task at times.
That's right.
Like you really have to think about it, possibly get advice about it, possibly speak to a rabbi about it.
100%. 1,000,000%.
And that's the real challenge here, is how to do it,
That's
not to do it, not to
Good.
try, it's how to
Thank
go
you.
about it.
Perfect. You said it better than me. Perfect.
right.
Erwin, he topped you on that one, Erwin. You're slowing up a little bit. That was perfect. You said it perfectly. It's about how to do it. It's the main thing is
Derek
about how to do it.
Harris.
Huh?
Derek Harris. How you
Yeah.
going to say it? Derek Harris. Just
How you gonna say
sometimes it's the law of the land, but you got to be very
But
careful.
I must be in it. I must do it. I must think about it. I must struggle with it, not because of the other guy. It's not because of him. I want to just make that point one more time. It's because of me. It's for my growth, not for his.
You know, it's funny you're saying that. I know people that will say, listen, I want to make you understand, I feel. And they say, I feel because they want to say that they feel slighted or they feel hurt. And it's very hard to accept when someone tells you, I feel hurt that you did such and such, or you said such and such. It hurts. You know, it's not easy. This is not easy what you're saying.
Good. And that's maybe somewhat to Zach's point, where it's all about the how. It's very much about the how. So when you pull the most raw covering off of honesty, it points us right here. And I think it has great value to study this, at least the 19th chapter of the book of Vayikra, and look at these different mitzvot and how they connect to each other. I'll give you one more small example, sort of a side point, and we'll wrap. Zach and I learned this together. We must leave the corner of the field for the poor person, right? The pe'at sadeh, right? When you harvest a field, if you dropped 2 stalks or fewer, those go to the poor person. And if you dropped a whole bundle, that goes to the poor person. And the corner of the field, a specific corner, the same corner in each person's field, has to be left for the poor person. Now, there's a discussion in the Talmud on this, and the rabbis say, well, why was it one specific corner of everybody's field for the poor person? Why couldn't one person leave the middle of the field, one person leave the front of the field, one person leave the back of the field? What would you say?
You said, I think you taught us this, that it's like for the dignity of the poor person, so they would know where to go.
Beautiful. And what else is it? More than dignity. Yes. What else is it? More than dignity.
Maybe
Oh,
the
you said
fact
you
that-
allow them to help themselves, right? You allow
Right,
this
you're allowing
person
them to help themselves, but why does it all have to be in the same place?
It's not an accident. It's intentional.
Right, it's intentional, and I have to care about the poor person's time. One second, the poor person has nothing to do. He doesn't have a job. The same way the blind person can't see that stumbling block, and the deaf person can't hear the comment. It doesn't matter. It's all about me. It's all about me refining myself and me holding a bright light on my own values, principles, and level of honesty. And that's why you're right, Serene. It's about the dignity of the poor person. It's true. And I don't want to cause a person to be walking back and forth over the field. But you know what's even more than that? I don't want to cause the poor person to waste time. Unbelievable. Right?
You know what I thought, Ricky?
Well,
I thought that each corner shows him that there's not one corner better than the other. You're giving him a sample of every part of what you own.
no, it's got to be in one specific spot and the same spot by everybody's field. So, to wrap up, we're going to do 1 or 2 more stints on honesty from different perspectives. We've attempted to do it differently each time so far. I want you to think about this a lot, about the the responsibilities we have, because we must be honest, and because we must have clear hearts and happiness in our hearts. And that demands the most rigorous level of honesty. If it's hard to be honest when you have to lie to build a relationship, that's one thing that we talked about. And it's true. It's hard to do that. And that's why we learned it. Because to be an honest person means I must lie in certain circumstances to bring about the betterment of a relationship or a person. Nothing to talk about. Slam dunk has to be done. In this case, we're going one step more subtle, more underground, so to speak, and talking about that very exciting mitzvot shebelev, duties of the heart, mitzvot of the heart, which they're in the parasha of Kedoshim, of holiness, of standing alone and separate from everybody else. And they're fundamental to being a happy and complete and excellent person. And that's what we want to be doing. And that's what
Ricky,
yeah.
Ricky, I would think that certain situations you say Hashem will deal with them. Because if you don't feel that you're not that big and that grand that you should feel you can deal with the situation and resolve it, Hashem is watching. He'll deal with them. You're only going to make trouble. I still don't understand how you're not going to make trouble.
Find, who mentioned it? Somebody said it. You said it. You said it, Cynthia. Find the other person to do it. Find the other person. If
No,
you're
but I'm
not,
saying in such a situation, when you think that an intermediary can resolve the situation between two people, that's one thing. But sometimes you're just getting into, it's not your place just to try and resolve everybody's.
100%. But I want to tell you this. Most of the time, there's an intermediary. Most of the time, there's a way. Sometimes it takes a day. Sometimes it takes a year. Sometimes it takes whatever. But the overwhelming majority of the time, there's a way. Otherwise, HaKadosh Baruch Hu wouldn't challenge you with it. If it was impossible, he wouldn't do it. He wouldn't bring it into your life. So the overwhelming majority of the time, there's a way. Sometimes it takes weeks or more to figure it out. But we have to be in the game. And it's a harder way to live. It's a harder way to live life. It's true. But it stands tall to what chesed is, what responsibility is to others, and primarily to me.
So Ricky,
100%.
if someone hurts your feelings, you're not supposed to walk away. You're supposed to deal with it.
100%. We are not Christian. We do not turn the other cheek. We do not. Because if someone hurts my feelings, and as a result of that, I carry that pain in my heart, I am violating two biblical commandments. One is by carrying pain in my heart, and the second is by not rebuking him. Okay, it might be three. Excuse me, it might actually be three. I might also violate the positive commandment of loving the other person.
Wow.
Great. This is great. This is Judaism in its rawest form. Great.
But Ricky,
Yeah.
Ricky, I was glancing a little bit at the English. Sometimes it says I am Hashem and sometimes it doesn't.
Right.
What's the criteria? Because it says you should not hate your brother in your heart. That one I would think it would, I am Hashem, but it doesn't.
Right. So some of these psukim have to be put together, and some have to be put together, two or three together, that culminate in I am Hashem. Some of them stand alone. Let's see. So the pasuk that says, the two psukim that say to leave the area for the poor person to harvest, those two psukim are read together, and they say Ani Hashem Elokechem, right? I am the Lord your God. To not swear to a lie or to be Mehalel at Shem Hashem. Let's talk about that in a minute. We're out. You guys still there? Sorry. Let's talk about that one more minute. My point is, Rachel, just to answer your question quickly, put 2 or 3 of the psukim together. Sometimes it's the same subject and they should be read together.
Okay.
Right.
Okay?
I don't know that it always is.
No, it's not always that way. Tell me the one that doesn't have it. Tell me the one that doesn't.
You're reading Pirkei Avot. I don't have the book now.
That's it.
Look at like Zion. If you start there,
Pasuk
Don't-
Zion.
on aside, don't stand aside. I am Hashem. Fine, that makes sense. But then it says, don't hate your brother in your heart. And then it says you should, whatever, like the next few. I don't know. I'm just wondering why it's split up that way. I don't see the logic and why it's split up that way. I'm just asking
Right.
why some, because
Oh,
don't.
it says Ani Hashem before that pasuk, right? And
Yeah,
it
but
says, that's what I'm
other-
saying. You have to group, some of these psukim have to be grouped together. The pasuk that says, pasuk 17, right? Don't hate your neighbor in your heart. Culminates with Ani Hashem, and then you have pasuk 18, and those two culminate with Ani Hashem. So when you read these, you very often you will see that it's the same subject spread over 2 verses, not one. You good with that?
Yeah, but then I have my other question is not to hate your brother in your heart. Shouldn't that go before 16? In other words, that's almost like height for a few of the details that are going underneath it, but it's not written that way.
It's so how is it written? You tell me how you understand it.
No, nothing. Fine.
No, no, it's no. Can you clarify your question? I'm not clear on it.
No, I'm gonna read a little more. Thank you.
Okay, all right. Sorry about that. Sorry, I wasn't able to answer it. What else?
Obligation.
Huh?
You've got a
Yeah.
big obligation here, Ricky.
Yeah, we have some obligations, and this is what it is. And you know the
Have you dealt with it? Have you ever tried to deal with those obligations?
yeah,
Knowing Hashem is watching you?
yeah, and it's great, and it's hard, but you
Yes.
build people that way. You literally build people, literally.
Wow.
And you could say, after 120 years, you know what? I said something. No, I'll tell you, and I'm sure you've all had this. People will come over to me and say, "You told me this 30 years ago. You remember?" I don't remember, but that person remembers. And that was an expression of that extra effort to confront the person, to help the person, to challenge the person through an issue where they were on the wrong track. But that's our job. That's just our job. And, you know, Akadosh Baruch Hu makes it complicated sometimes. But, you know, and I don't know exactly the cliche. I don't remember it. But he never throws a good person a challenge they can't master. He doesn't. And
Ricky, the truth of the matter is what you say is, I think that the stronger the effort, that the solution is there, but you have to drive to get the solution. Yeah.
That's right. And sometimes, you know, sometimes you don't see the answer, but when you commit to going on that journey, I don't know the answer, but I'm committed to help this person. I don't know. I know this could be a 100-step process. I'm on step 1. It could be a 20-step process. It's okay. Get on the road.
Right.
And the answers come. Even though I don't have the answer today, the answers come more often than not. They come. Because HaKadosh Baruch Hu told you umpteen times, I'm in it. Ani Hashem. I want to help you. I want you to get this done.
Right. That's the motivational piece.
Yeah. Hashem's in it.
Right.
I like the idea, Ricky, but you're not Hashem, and the truth is, you
That's
can
right.
make a lot of trouble. You could end up
Okay.
without one friend if you're going to be so honest.
I'm telling you, it's about being clever, not honest. It's about being clever. It's about being clever and deliberate. And, you know, sometimes you tell a story to someone in a third person. Sometimes you'll tell a story to someone about some third person from 30 years ago or something like that, totally made up story. so that the person can walk away with the message. That's cool. What do you
That's
mean?
cool.
The story
that's
is totally made up.
But that's
Okay,
not
so-
confrontational at all. That's
I'm
easy.
sorry. Okay,
That's not confrontational. That's easy.
Right.
good. So there are a lot of different ways to do it. Sometimes you.
Ricky,
invite-
also, like you said, an advisor, a sage, an experienced person could have that magic bullet that you need to make it happen. A lot of
Okay.
times people are like you say, you're too deep in the forest to see the trees. You're going in confrontational, everybody. Now you take someone who's been around the block, within 30 seconds could give you that answer.
Okay, but you have to find the guy. Find the guy.
Okay, you gotta make your effort in anything you do. You can't just like,
I'm
you know,
sending
wake
them
up
to
and,
Ricky.
What? I'm gonna
I'm
send them
sending
back
them
to
all
you,
to Ricky.
Cynthia. I'm sending
I'm
them
sending
back to you.
everybody to Ricky. Want to deal with it? Call to
I'm
Ricky.
turning them right around and sending them right back to where are you, Boca Raton? I'm sending them right down there.
You bet. Come down here and I'm gonna send them to you, Ricky.
All right. Sounds
so
great.
Cynthia,
Huh.
we just 1-800-Ricky.
Yeah.
One
I'm gonna-
800
I'm gonna-
Ricky,
I think
exactly.
Cynthia is 7 letters. Ricky's only 5, so I think whatever it is.
I have a very religious man coming to visit me tomorrow. I'm sending him to you, and
Yeah.
you have to have the Torah with him.
All right, we'll straighten them out. All right, great. Thank
All
you,
right.
everybody. Any other
Thank
thoughts,
you.
Thank you,
questions? We're
Ricky.
good? All right, thanks, everybody.
Great.
Thank you.
Very
Have a
nice.
great
Bye.
Thank
week.
you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.